And that leads us to a different show that I'm going to get to right now. NXT TakeOver Revolution, a show so good that Triple H got himself a fruit basket out of it. Yes, the users of Reddit on the Reddit Squared Circle page were so happy and so impressed by this NXT show that one user got the bright idea to band together and pay for an Edible Arrangements fruit basket to send to Triple H at WWE headquarters. Unfortunately for them, they didn't realize that Triple H was still down in Orlando at the NXT television taping, so he didn't get it, but Triple H did acknowledge it on Twitter and actually posted photos of the fruit basket, which was eaten by their archivist guy, so at least it didn't go to waste. I laughed. I thought that was awesome. And whoever's responsible for it, whether it's Triple H or whoever, they did a hell of a job, and that is an understatement right there. There was nothing developmental about this show. There was nothing minor league about this show. This is what wrestling should be. This is it. It should be fun. It should be fresh. It should have action. It should have drama. It should have announcing that does not detract from the show, but actually adds to it, or at least stays out of the way, except for Alex Riley, who gets on my nerves. It should build new stories. It should climax existing stories. It should feel important, like wins and losses actually matter, and everybody there has a purpose. It should leave you wanting more, not less. And yeah, this was a 2-hour show, whereas Raw has an extra hour to fill. But you know what? Those 2 hours breezed by like nothing on Thursday night. Kind of like how Raw used to feel all those years ago. You just hated it when that copyright notice would come on the TV screen because it meant the show was over. These days, it can't come soon enough. And those are the biggest differences between the product we see on Monday nights and the product that we see on Thursdays. And look, they don't have home run shows like this every week, but those shows week to week, by and large, are very good, and they build to these specials that we get treated to. Right now, they're 4 times a year. You know what? I could be okay with them if they wanted to bump it up to 5 or 6. I would not go beyond that. I think part of why this works so well is because you only have 4. It's like the traditional Big 4 pay-per-views, right? You would use your television over the course of several months to build to these big cards. If they did NXT specials like this every single month, they would lose that special feeling. So I actually don't want to see them move to an every month format. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind having another 1 or 2 of these every year and then maybe kind of cap it at that. But that's part of what makes them so special. We had face paint, blood, and F-bombs galore on this show, and dives. Lots and lots of dives through the ropes. This is something I've talked about before. Way too many people doing dives. But this show also gave us the match of the year in WWE. If we are including NXT matches, as much as I loved The Shield and the Wyatt family at the Elimination Chamber, I spoke too soon last week when I mentioned that as the match of the year. The match between Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville, which has been built up for months and months, is everything pro wrestling should be. I loved it. I loved everything about it, from the presentation of it, to the match itself, to the story they told, to the finish, to the post-match celebration with everybody coming out and the confetti, to the swerve with Kevin Owens at the end. Everything, all of it. I've already watched it 2 more times. I cannot say enough good things about it. But when the show is over, I was just left with the thought that a lot of you guys had. How is this the same company? How is the same company that puts out 3 hours of this drivel and bullshit every single Monday night the same company that puts this kind of show out? And I guess the answer is simple. You know, Vince and Kevin Dunn and all of them don't really have any creative input into the show. It's Triple H, it's Dusty Rhodes. There may be another writer they have helping them. I don't know who the real main point person is. But at the end of the day, developmental NXT is Triple H's baby. So we can say all the things we want to say about Triple H, and a lot of what CM Punk had to say is probably very true as far as things, at least with him, that happened in Triple H. How come he wins this match and beats this guy? It doesn't make sense. He's just trying to put himself over. I've always been able to separate that and give Triple H a lot of credit for what he's done with NXT. You will never find me criticizing Triple H on this show for what he has done with NXT. I've given him props before. I will give it to him again now. If he was the brains behind this show, kudos to him. Thank you, because this was a phenomenal effort. And if it's a sign of what's to come in the future when Vince steps aside, and I guess he's never going to step aside, so when Vince croaks, whenever that may be, and the time comes, if Triple H is the one to take over, my only hope is that Raw will never become what NXT is. That's just not going to happen. They have too many masters to serve, from the network to sponsors and everything else. Raw will never be NXT, but they can take elements from NXT and incorporate them into Raw. And that's, I think, the best that you could ask for. And I really think it would improve the product in terms of just how they tell their stories, some of the people they use, if they want to call some of them up, some of the production techniques. There's so many little things they could borrow, I think, from NXT that can make Raw even just a little bit better. Why wouldn't she do that? It's incredible to me just to think that the same company is responsible for those two shows. I cannot recommend this show enough. I think most of you by now have seen it. If you haven't, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. Sign up for the network. It's worth it for 1 month at least. Sign up and check this show out. You will not regret it. It's the best wrestling show you'll see all week. It may be the best wrestling show you see all month. We'll see how TLC goes. I think it's going to be very hard for TLC to top what we saw last Thursday. And it's everything I loved about NXT. It's why I've been reviewing this show on my show now for over a year and a half. I've been reviewing NXT. It's one of the more fun things that I am able to do every single week. And this week was the payoff. And it was everything I could have hoped for and more. I 2 thumbs up. I cannot recommend this show enough.